lot of conflicting opinions in the world of sports broadcasting. We understand that. Everybody's got their own thing. But when you hear Dan Shulman.
Oh, yeah. It's a big game.
We've talked about this before. We are in 100% agreement. That's the best right there.
Yep.
You know it's a big game. You know it's going to be done well because that's what Dan Schulman does. He does baseball. He does college basketball. And when you hear his voice, you know you're in for a good broadcast and hopefully a really good game. Dan's in Pod World headquarters. Dan, thanks for coming by.
Well, thank you. Flattery will get you everywhere, by the way. So yeah, good at that.
Look, when Phyllis was here, that's not what we said.
Oh, really? Can I have the tape of that? I want to make that my phone message if you call my phone. But thank you. I've been so lucky for so many years, and I love coming here. Love coming to Chapel Hill. Love coming to the Dean Dome and doing games. I don't even know where to count how many games I've done here. It's always great. I love the scene. I love the gear. I love the color, the Carolina. I love everything, and it's one of my favorite spots. And so happy to. I'm getting a little bit older, but so happy to still be doing this, having fun. That my bosses still think I'm worth the trouble, and great to be with you guys.
So you've been busy, and of course you probably best know Dan as college basketball, and you hear him on all the big games and etc. But you're also essentially the hometown guy for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
What a season, man. Take us through this run and what your last several months have been like.
Yeah, so baseball is my other life, and for many, many years I did ESPN baseball, Sunday night baseball, but kind of, to use a baseball term, rounding third and heading for home, went back to Toronto, in the latter stages, I guess, of my career to be the Blue Jays announcer. And we have a unique situation up there in that it's the only Canadian team, obviously, and every game we do is on national television. So I'm the local guy for a national team, and it's really unique. Our ratings are off the charts. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with just how popular this team is. And, of course, this year they overachieved and went to the World Series and went as far as you can go and got as close as you can get without winning it before losing to the Dodgers in 11 innings in Game 7. But it was a wild ride. I'm still short of sleep because of it, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world other than could they have pushed across one more run or kept that run off the scoreboard to win it. But the whole country and Canada, not by population but by size, is huge. Canada's bigger than the United States. I don't know if everybody in all parts of the world know that, but the Blue Jays have fans in Vancouver, so think of where Seattle is, and the Blue Jays have fans in the Maritimes in Atlantic, Canada, so think of where Boston is, but even further. So imagine having a team that's got fans equally in Boston and Seattle and San Diego and Miami, and that's kind of what we have. And for Game 7 of the World Series, we averaged almost 11 million viewers in a country of 41 million viewers. So more than a quarter of the country was watching. And in the ninth inning, it was over 14 million. More than a third of the country was watching Game 7 of the World Series, and none of them went into work. The next morning, they were all too depressed.
We know you as professional, down the middle. I'm the play-by-play guy, staying neutral.
Right.
Do you enjoy getting to be a little bit of I'm not a homer, but being able to be a little bit behind one team?
Absolutely. And I always say this, I'd be lying if I said it was any different. And I think for, just like you with Carolina, where are you from? Tell me where you're from.
So I'm from Jacksonville, North Carolina, down on the coast.
Okay. So I'm from Toronto, born and raised, and did the Blue Jays at the beginning of my career before I went full-time to ESPN. The Blue Jays were born in 1977. I was born in 1967. So 10-year-old me was going to Blue Jays games. Yeah. I no longer would say I'm a fan of the team, but your job is more fun if Carolina's good. My job is more fun if the Blue Jays are good. And above and beyond that, whether it's baseball or college basketball, all I've ever wanted, guys, is to do games that matter to people.
Mm-hmm.
So as we've already established, Blue Jay games matter to a lot of people. And I'm born, raised, and have always lived in Toronto. The vast majority of people who really matter to me live there, and every single one of them is a rabid Blue Jays fan. So sure, you get a little bit emotionally invested. If you heard me call Bo Bichette's home run in the third inning of Game 7 versus Max Muncy's home run in the eighth inning of Game 7, sure, they're different. Now, they're both big moments,
sure,
and I'm not the kind of guy to go, oh, Muncy hit a homer. Like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
It's a big moment, but obviously there's a there's a change. There's a funny thing, actually. Our networks, my network, Sportsnet, I don't know if you've ever had this here or in any of the games you've done. They put a camera in the booth for the playoff.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you saw any of the stuff on social media. It's weird seeing yourself, even though you know you've been doing this a long time, and they would only play a highlight if the Blue Jays won the game, and inevitably, if the Blue Jays won the game, there was a home run in there, so they played that call. And I'm like getting after it, like physically. I didn't realize how much I'm moving around. I don't think I do it in college basketball. Firstly, Billis has taken up too much space.
Yeah, as always.
So, but I'm really moving a lot more than I thought I did, and my facial expressions, like to call a home run in a World Series is, pretty much as big as it gets, obviously. So I'm giving it my all, but the whole experience was absolutely fantastic.
There's that layer, and then there's the layer we were talking about off the air that you got to do it with family.
Yes.
Your son is the Blue Jays radio guy, so both Schulmans calling the World Series for the hometown team.
Right.
What was that like?
Like honestly, when it's time for me to leave this earth in like 30 years or whatever, and somebody says, "What was the best month of your life?" I might say this, because on both a professional level and a personal level, it was awesome. So Ben is young. He's 25 years old, but he's really talented. He went to Syracuse, went through Newhouse. He's one of those guys. He knew from the time he was like 12, 13 years old, he wanted to do it. And he went to the school he wanted to go to, and he might have done a game here. So he and I are both Canadian. When you have a student visa, you get a 1-year. Being Canadian is not as glamorous as it appears, but you get a 1-year work extension. So for a year after he graduated from Syracuse, he continued to do games. He was at the ACC tournament for Syracuse, but after that, he did some women's college basketball games on ESPN Plus and ESPNU or ACC Network, that sort of thing, and did some other stuff for them as well. Did the Little League World Series regionals and a bunch of stuff. And I can't remember, he might have come to Carolina to do a game, but he certainly saw you guys at the ACC tournament while he was at Syracuse. It was great. So I'm in the TV booth, he's in the radio booth. In Toronto, that means I'm on the 4th level, he's on the 3rd level. In New York, Seattle, LA, it means we're a booth or two apart. And I try not to crowd them, think back to when you guys were 25 and you don't, like goofy old dad, like keep your distance, man, and I want him to carve out his own path in every way that he can. But I'd be lying if I said as a dad it wasn't really cool. Like, we're texting all day because we're literally doing the same job. We have the same interests.
Right.
He's younger and smarter than I am, so his prep skills are way better than mine. So for every nugget I'm texting him, he's sending me like 6 of his that are way better than anything that I sent him. But it's really, really fun, and very happy for him. I said to him, like, a lot of broadcasters, wait 30 years and don't get a World Series, like me for the Jays. To be 25 years old and to be calling a World Series at Dodger Stadium that goes 7 games and 11 innings and all that, pretty lucky. But he did great. Our network on social media would often put out both of our calls, or they'd like blend together their calls.
Oh, that's
our
cool.
calls, like the first 6 words of mine and then 6 words of his. And it was wonderful, but it got a little annoying because he kicked my butt most of the time. So he can get to 11 easier than I can. I can get to about a 9.5 now, but he can get to 11, and he absolutely kicked my butt a few times, and I was happy about that.
Do you critique each other?
He doesn't critique me.
That's probably a wise move. Probably a wise move on.
He doesn't critique me. Once in a blue moon, again, you can find highlights anywhere, right? So on social media, the radio network puts out highlights every night. I don't listen every night. And obviously, if he's working, I'm working, so I don't hear him live. But maybe once every week or two, I'll listen to the 4-minute highlight pack. And it's rare now, honestly.
Yeah.
His first couple of years, more so because there were some things I felt like life was coming at him fast. He's 23 and he's getting a chance. Now he's 24 and he's the full-time guy. And I think actually not this past offseason, the one before, I said, let me be annoying here. I said, let's sit down and listen to a game of yours together. Let's go through a whole game. Because everybody here is on social media. You just hear the game-winning hit at the end of the game. But baseball, more than basketball, in my opinion, having done both, I mean, there's more time to fill. you've really got to have the mechanics of the broadcast, the nuts and bolts down, or you get exposed pretty quickly. And so he did that with me. And every now and again I would hear something. But honestly now, Jones, it's once a month I might say, hey, you said this, and I get what you were trying to say, but maybe a better way to word it would be that. But we're talking about small stuff.
Yeah.
How do you make that transition from baseball to basketball, which I think people think it like you're just calling a game? It's obviously the same. It's not.
No, they're very, very different. The analogy that I've always used, and it's not a good one, I just can't come up with a better one, is pretend you're walking on a treadmill, just having a leisurely stroll on a treadmill, and then you turn your head, and when you turn back, somebody's increased it from like 3 miles an hour to 6 miles an hour, boom, and now you're going. And it's funny, this is my 31st year of calling college basketball. I'm always a little nervous for that first 4 minutes of my first game because it's so different. Baseball to me always feels like riding a bike, and basketball does too. It's just going from slow to fast rather than from fast to slow, where I say, do I remember how to do this? And I'll say to Billis, man, you got to carry me. And he's like, I always carry you, man. So just he's so helpful that way. But no, he's great. And he especially this year, knows I'm coming in off a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I'm going to lean on him a little bit more. But it is different. In late February, early March, actually, I go back and forth a little bit because I do some spring training games for the Blue Jays. So not this year, but March of 24, I had I'm just going to make it Saturday in Tuscaloosa, Monday, Tuesday, spring training, Wednesday in Lawrence, Friday at spring training, Saturday, say at Carolina, whatever it is. And I had about a 2-week stretch where it was back and forth, and that was tricky. But I'm only a two-sport guy. Like some guys do football too.
Right.
You do football?
Yep.
You do baseball?
I don't do baseball.
Okay.
I just do football.
So you're a two-sport guy. To me, sports are like children. 2 is manageable, 3 is excessive. And I have 4 children. Yeah. So I don't know what the word for the 4th one is, but it is going from baseball to basketball. I always feel that challenge each year. So.
This, as you know, this is such a saturated field, this profession. Like so many guys want to do it. How did you, if people are listening, the 5 guys who are the best at what they do, at least when they ask me, your name is always involved. How did you get to this level? How'd you get started? How did your career blossom like it did?
It's a long story, and nobody could ever do it.
Great news with your pockets. You got no time limit. All right.
And nobody could ever do it the way I did it. So, first of all, I'm old, and second of all, I'm Canadian. So I'm at my school. We say university, not college, but same thing. The University of Western Ontario. It's 1985. There's no internet. So first of all, imagine you live in a world with no internet. It's the first day of first week, and I'm looking. My parents always kind of reinforced to myself and my sisters, don't just go to class, get involved, do some things. So I loved sports, like all 3 of us. Didn't have any other interests or hobbies, and went to try to write for the campus newspaper, which was a pretty good paper, the Gazette. And I get there, and there's like 200 people in line. And I'm thinking of my dad saying, go get involved. And I'm thinking of myself saying, there's 200 people in line. And I walked away. And I walked by a door, and it just said Radio Western. That's it. Again, Western, the name of the university. Knocked on the door, come in. Is this the campus radio station? Yes. Do you need volunteers? Yes. Do you do sports? Yes. Boom. And a week later, I did the second half of a football game as the analyst. So again, this is 1985, and this is Canada, where university sports are not nearly what they are down here. I have the opposite end of the spectrum from Ben's experience at Syracuse and everything he did. I knocked on a door, and 7 days later was on the air. I was a math major, had no intention of going into broadcasting, graduated with a degree in actuarial science, was an actuary for 6 months, didn't think it was the best choice for me, started couriering out cassette tapes. This is 1989 now, and eventually got a part-time job, a weekend job, at a radio station in Barrie, Ontario, 50 miles north of Toronto, and started doing news, weather, traffic, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
For $6 an hour in 1990. And got a break, knew a guy, got a break, met a guy, got a break, and eventually got to Toronto radio, got a talk show, started doing some little play-by-play things. ESPN radio, randomly, again, this is when you would turn a dial to get the radio. A man named Al Jaffe at ESPN Radio in Bristol, Connecticut, heard me doing my talk show in Toronto, Canada, called me. I thought it was my roommate punking me. and literally said, "That's pretty good, Rob. You even got a New York accent and everything." And he's like, "I'm going to say this one more time." Jeez. And so I get hired to do ESPN Radio on the weekends while I'm doing Toronto radio Monday to Friday. And then the Blue Jay announcer in 1994 steps aside to concentrate on hockey. He was doing both sports. And I auditioned for the Blue Jay job at 28 with no baseball play-by-play experience. Some basketball, some football, no baseball. I don't get the job. 3 months later, they call me back. "Are you still interested?" So who the first 6 guys they tried to hire, I had no idea. I get the job. Now I leave both radio jobs because the baseball job doesn't allow me to do that. And then in September, somebody calls in sick for an ESPN game. And because of my prior experience with ESPN Radio, they knew me. They knew I left for baseball. "Hey, can you fill in on a one-time basis?" "Sure." I'm in New York with the Blue Jays, but the next day's an off day. The game's in Kansas City. Like, it's back in the days where your ticket will be waiting for you at the airport. And like, I haven't done any prep on the Angels and Royals. I'm doing the Yankees and Blue Jays. Go to Kansas City, do a game, get a phone call a couple of days later. "Hey, do you do any other sports?" And I said, "I've done a little basketball." They said, "Could you send us a tape, mail off a VHS cassette," this being 1995, September of 95. And a couple of weeks later, a gentleman by the name of Dave Miller, who spent many, many, many years at ESPN, was the coordinating producer of college basketball then, calls me, introduces myself. I'm pretty sure I'm not being punked this time. And he says, "You have any interest in college basketball?" And I was over the moon. As a Canadian kid back then, it was harder to get a lot of games on TV. You didn't see everything, but you could see the tournament. And I loved the tournament. And my first memories actually really getting into the tournament were 82, which you guys know well, and 83, which you guys know well. And I was hooked. And now Dave Miller is saying to me, "Would you like to do college basketball?" And I jumped at it because at that point I was a Blue Jay guy, didn't have anything in the winter. And that's kind of how it started. And like a month later, I was sitting beside Bill Raftery doing a game. And so to all the young people who are listening, I'm sorry I can't help you at all because I don't know how you're supposed to do it, but that's how I did it back then. You could never replicate that today. It was just a bunch of sliding doors moments and some good luck, and here we are.
What's a job you didn't get or turned down or were turned down for that you feel like helped you get where you are right now?
So, well, that's a good question. So I was turned down for the Blue Jays job and then got it. I've been very lucky. So went from Blue Jays, then Blue Jays and ESPN, then only ESPN, and now back to Blue Jays and ESPN. I haven't really branched out and done other things. I would, without getting into details, at various points when contracts were up, I was approached and offered, but could never bring myself to leave. Was just so happy doing what I was doing, and I'm kind of a creature of comfort and habit and all that. So I don't know that I ever went looking for a job. I guess this is kind of a silly side thing. I was called about MLB The Show about 5 years ago. "Are you interested?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so. And let's talk about it." We talked about it. And then about a month later, one of my best friends in the business, John Shabby, who's now the Cubs announcer, called me and he goes, "Hey, I got something cool to tell you." And I said, "What?" He goes, "I got MLB The Show." And I was like, "Oh, congrats." So that's about it. But I will tell you this. So go way back into the ancient times when I said I started in Barrie, Ontario, and then got a radio job in Toronto part-time. So now I was 5 days a week in Barrie, Saturday, Sunday in Toronto. And I did one weekend of sportscasts on the Toronto station. And then the news director came in and he said, "We jumped the gun here a little bit. You're not quite ready." And he said, "But I tell you what I'm going to do." He said, "You're in Barrie Monday to Friday, and then you drive back into the city." Because I just graduated. I was still living at home. I didn't have any money or anything like that. And he said, "After your Friday morning shift in Barrie, you come back to Toronto anyways. Come into my office. I'll meet you here at like 1 p.m. every Friday. Bring a tape, and we'll air check you." And I did that every Friday for about 4 months.
Wow.
And then he hired me again to be a part-time guy. So it was a great wake-up call, and I always, not that I would ever write a book, but if I did, one of the chapters would be called "You Only Need One Yes." You can go in baseball. If you go 1 for 500, we're never going to see you again. But in this business, all you need is one. And I do think, and I feel for young people today. I think it's harder for them today for some reason than it was back in those days. But I think getting some no's can give you a dose of reality. And listen, the world has a lot of reality in it, and it made me work harder. It made me understand the things I had to do to try to get better, and it put me on a good path.
Who does it well, in your opinion?
Play-by-play?
Yeah.
Well, my and Shambi and I are still friends, even though he got MLB The Show. So I think he is one of the best. I mean, I grew up listening to Al Michaels and to Bob Costas, Dick Enberg, who I thought was fantastic. So those are some of the, kind of Mount Rushmore kind of guys, pillar guys, right? So I think Sean McDonough is great. I think Sean McDonough is the smartest, most versatile play-by-play announcer there is. I love Kevin Harlan. Absolutely love Kevin Harlan. And it's funny because a couple of people have asked me about this, and actually somebody told me that Kevin said kind of a similar thing about me. Kevin and I are very, very different in the way that we go about it. I couldn't try to do it like Kevin. I wouldn't be able to do it like Kevin, but I love listening to Kevin Harlan. I think if Kevin Harlan's on a game, and I don't care if it's an NCAA tournament game or if it's football on the radio, like I'm hooked. I'm sitting in my car until the next commercial if Kevin Harlan's doing the game. So I think Kevin is great. I think Sean is great. I think Mike Tirico, who's a good friend of mine, is fantastic. Mike is unbelievably smart and well prepared. And he's one of those guys when I'm watching the games. I don't know if you do this. Sometimes I'm just playing along in my head. What would I say in this moment? And like 6 times a game, Mike says something, and I'm like, damn, I never would have thought of that. He's always in control. He's got control of the broadcast at all times. So those are some. I know I leave guys out, so but those are some of the guys that come to mind.
Okay, this is a real nerdy play-by-play question, so I apologize to people listening to ask this, but how do you, especially with the volume of stuff that you are doing, how do you feel adequately prepared for a broadcast? How do you do it? Because I would think it would get overwhelming at some point.
So it's different doing a team like the Blue Jays than when I was doing Sunday Night Baseball. So with the Blue Jays, just by virtue of being around them every day, you're kind of prepared. Now, I do work all the time, but it's almost like you're brushing up on your notes from a midterm to a final or something like that, if that makes sense. For the other team, and I don't know how you feel about Carolina's opponents, like if the Blue Jays are playing the Minnesota Twins, our audience, it's not a 50-50 broadcast. They don't want to know as much about Trevor Larnach as they want to know about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Sure. So it's probably 80-20, 90-10 in terms of my prep. And then day 1 of the series is a lot. Day 2 and 3, it's mostly brushing up on what happened in day 1 and the starting pitchers for 2 and 3. Manageable. The volume is something, but the work is something that I find manageable, and I guess I've been doing it so long I'm in such a routine. College basketball. So probably different than you, again, because you're calling for a team. So I can be, in a 2-week span, I can be in Louisville and then Kansas and then Arizona and then Florida, whatever. So seeing 8 different teams. The trick, I feel I've got it down pretty well. The exception being sometimes something early in the year like Maui. Now we got 8 teams. And maybe I've seen one of them before we get to Maui. So, and all I want to do on an airplane is sleep. I love sleeping on air. I sleep way better on an airplane than I do in my bed. But so it's a lot of time prepping on the way out because it's early in the season. And now with the transfer portal and just the way the game is right now, it's so different. When I started, I would come to Chapel Hill and the same guys were here. And you had with RJ, you had a little bit of that. But back in the 90s, everybody stayed. Like it was easy. So there are times I would say in all candor in November, December, where I'm like not quite where I want to be yet. But again, in basketball, the game is so fast. I don't have to have as much biographical information. I've got Billis with me, who's phenomenal. So you get by. By the time we get to January, February, given the way my schedule generally is, I'm seeing Kentucky for a third, fourth time, Carolina for a third, fourth time. So then it gets easy until maybe Champ Week, whatever league we're in, ACC or SEC. If we're doing day one or day two, now all of a sudden, well, I haven't seen Boston College or Florida State or whatever the case may be. So most of the time I feel I've got it, but there are some times where I'm like, not quite where I want to be.
When you walk into college basketball land in November, there's not a lot of casual viewers. Like everyone who's watching feels pretty strongly about one of these two teams. How do you convey that you also care and this is something you enjoy doing while also making it be professional ESPN quality?
Right. Well, the most important thing is don't wear the wrong color tie. That's rule number one. I did a game, Carolina game at Illinois. This is 20 years ago, maybe more. And didn't think and packed a Carolina blue tie.
Looks good, Dan.
It's a sharp color. And, I mean, I got it. From fans, from everybody, I got it. And somebody brought me another tie at halftime, and I think I switched it. I don't remember if it was orange or neutral. I can't remember. So number one is pack the right tie. If you have a choice between that and everything else, pack the right tie. And that's the most important thing. But I try to be neutral because I think I am neutral. And listen, so let's talk about Duke, because everybody who watches college basketball has a strong opinion about Duke, one way or another, more than any other program. I think we would all probably agree with that. So, not often, occasionally accused of being pro-Duke because the viewer hates Duke so much that if they hear Cooper Flagg's name one more time than anybody else, then boom. I even get it a little bit with the Blue Jays. You're talking too much about the other team, or you're too much of a homer. I'll see tweets like that within 5 minutes of each other in the same game. You can't please everybody. But I don't find it an issue for me. You can't make everybody happy, but when Carolina plays Kansas or Florida plays Kentucky or Arizona plays Houston or whatever, I just want a good game. I want the game to be decided on a last shot. That's all I really care about. So I try to maintain neutrality. I feel I do a pretty good job of that. But at the end of the day, you can't please everybody, but I think I'm doing pretty well.
Do you miss in basketball not rooting just a little?
That's a good question. I don't think so because, I just love college basketball, as we've already established. I love it. And the job I have, which I'm so lucky to have, lets me go to the Dean Dome and to Cameron and to the Fog and everywhere else. And obviously, you guys travel around to a lot of great places as well. But this was my entrance point into college basketball was with ESPN. I never was a local guy. And I guess because I'm Canadian and so deeply rooted in Toronto, like I couldn't be the Pittsburgh guy or the Carolina guy, whatever. For me to work in this field in college basketball, by definition, I kind of have to be a national guy at whatever level, but I kind of have to be a national guy. So it's all I've ever known, and I love the experience of one thing I think is great about college basketball is how different every building is. You don't always get that in the NHL or the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball. I think maybe I feel it more in Major League Baseball because I'm so, attuned to that. But one of my favorite things about college basketball is it is so different in every building, and my job allows me to see so many cool buildings. So, no, I'm happy where I'm at.
Is there a call that you don't feel like you did as well as you would like to have done? Like a big moment where you look back, oh, gosh, Dan.
I can think of a couple in baseball easier than in basketball. We had a game last year, and I don't remember where it was. But somebody went down the court, and there were like 3 seconds left, and he put up a 50-footer, and the ball's in the air. Maybe there were 4 seconds. Ball's in the air. And I go for the win, and it doesn't go in. And the other team gets the rebound and gets a half-court shot off and hits the back of the rim at the other end. So I was like, for the win, and then it could have been at the other end, and it was one of those, come on, man, you've been doing this too long to make that. So I got lucky because he didn't make the shot. That's a good question. I think about it in baseball more than in basketball. But yes, there are moments. Sometimes I think I'm trying to fight the crowd too much if it's like a home team win. And I don't like the direction my voice goes in to get there, but my brain can never tell my voice in that time. It's okay. You don't have to growl. You can, but it's so loud and subconsciously or muscle memory, you're just kind of fighting to get over it. But you always want to be better. I air check myself a fair bit. Not entire games, but I'll watch a 4-minute segment or something like that. And if ever I'm asked to speak to students, I always say, if you're not trying to get better, even though you may not realize it, you're probably getting worse. I'm 58 years old. This is my 31st year, and I still think I can learn things.
Where's a building where basketball fans need to see a game? And maybe, I'm assuming this will be one of a few that we can all think of. Give us another one that's under the radar. And then where's a ballpark where baseball fans need to see?
Okay. I think Purdue has one of the best environments. Did you guys play there in the old ACC Big Ten? Or?
Only time Carolina's been there, at least since I've been doing the games, was the COVID NCAA tournament. So obviously not the same.
I think Purdue's got an unbelievable environment. I don't know if you want me to put it in this bucket or that bucket, given your question. But when I get asked this question, let's say I'm on a radio show in Albuquerque or whatever. It's a very common question. What are your favorites? So Kansas to me, and you guys were there last year. Mm-hmm. First time you guys were there?
Yes.
Right. To me, that's the best. I'll say it quietly. I think Duke is really good. It's a great environment.
You can edit that part out.
Okay.
Oh, no, let me mark the time of that. Right.
And then I usually do like a podium, whatever. So and they haven't been great for the last few years, and ESPN doesn't have Big Ten anymore. But when Indiana is really, really good,
it's a tough place.
That place is unbelievable. And then I guess Purdue, I would say it's too good to be considered under the radar, but I don't know how many just basketball fans around the country would say, oh, yeah, Purdue. But Purdue is awesome. The Big Ten has some great, great environments. I love Carolina. I would put it in my second tier. I think it's underrated. I think the whole wine and cheese narrative and all that, that's got to go. That's not a thing anymore, I don't believe. I always tell people if they're coming here for a game, make sure you're in your seat 30 minutes early. You want to see the whole thing. You want to, and when the scoreboard up in the corners runs through all the former players and it finishes off with, I'm Michael Jordan and I'm a Tar Heel. I mean, come on. Right. How do you beat that? So I think it's great here. But I would go Kansas, Duke, Indiana, with Purdue being that. Wow, is it fantastic there? Oh, baseball.
Yeah, baseball.
I'm sorry, baseball. So Wrigley and Fenway are in their own special bucket because of the history there, and I love doing both of those. Other than that, San Francisco is gorgeous. They change their name every 2 years. I think it's Oracle Park now, but if it's not, I apologize to whoever is the sponsor now. I would say San Francisco, Seattle is great. I would say San Francisco, Seattle, San Diego, also a beautiful ballpark. Mm-hmm. But Wrigley and Fenway to me are different, special. And if I had to pick just two, I'd pick those two, actually.
All right, we've gone more than 30 minutes, so I don't want to keep you much longer. This has been awesome. You mentioned Jay a couple of times. How valuable is that to have worked with the same person for so long and to have that familiarity and friendship that appears you guys have?
It's great. So I'll make we can do it as a basketball analogy. Like you're a point guard, and every year you've got 4 different guys around you or a different shooting guard or whatever. It's hard. You've got to learn their likes and dislikes and their nuances and all that. And I've been very lucky. And I actually have a note on my phone of all the people I've worked with in baseball and basketball. Like nobody's ever going to ask me to see it. I don't know why I do these things, but it's about
Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yeah.
And it's about 40 deep in each sport.
Wow.
Again, because I've been around so long, and I've worked with a lot of people. And at the beginning, did a lot of games with Bill Raftery, a lot of games with Len Elmore, like a lot of games with Doris Burke, like back in the day. And then obviously did a million games with Dick Vitale. But I've been very lucky that for the vast majority of my career, it's been almost entirely with Vitale, who you need to do a few to figure out how that's going to work. Dick's not listening. And then the last several years, almost entirely with Jay. I do about 35 games a season. I bet you 33 are with Jay. So first of all, as good as it gets. Second of all, as prepared as it gets. And those are two great things. He trusts me. I trust him. He knows my cadence. I know his cadence. A great guy, a connected guy, a fun guy, an outgoing guy. Like he's really, if you're building an analyst in a lab, and sometimes I'm not so sure he wasn't built in a lab, this is what you're looking for. And it's just great. I know what I can throw him, and the easy answer with him is I can throw him anything, basically. And not everybody I've worked with do I feel that way. Like, okay, I can go here, but not there, because you never want to put your analyst in a bad spot, right? So, but you can throw him anything. We'll have fun. I don't think we're too goofy, but we'll have some giggles. But when the moment calls for it, we both really lock in on the game. The only problem is, from behind, we look the same, and every now and again, I get called Billis, or I get called Seth Greenberg, or I get called McDonough. Like, not all older ball guys look alike, but sometimes our director Mike Roig will take a shot of us from behind, and you can't tell who's who. So, or they'll put an arrow like this is Dan, this is Jay, or something like that. But other than that, it's awesome. He's great. Yeah.
All right, what are you looking forward? Last thing, what do you look forward to this season? Talking college basketball, like what are you looking forward to as this season plays out?
So it's early, but it feels like there's an even by a lot of times the same two things are said every college basketball season. Boy, what a great crop of freshmen, and boy, the tournament's going to be wild this year. But I think both are going to happen, and it's so early to talk about the tournament, obviously. But we've already seen some of the great freshmen in the country, whether it's Peterson at Kansas or Boozer at Duke or Koa Pete at Arizona or Debansa at BYU, and there's more and more and more. Like, it just feels like a great crop. And, who's the best team? Is it Purdue? Is it Houston? Is it Arizona had the big win over Florida. Like, there's so many teams that we could be talking about. Is St. John's going to have an incredible run? And from all corners of the country, too. I just think it's got a chance. It's cool in the years. Who was it? There was one year where two teams dominated. Who beat Baylor? Somebody in Baylor were
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga and Baylor. That's right. I'm sorry. Baylor beat Gonzaga in the championship game. My mistake. They were the two best teams the whole year. And that's cool. But I like it when there's 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, 25 teams who on any given night you can go, wow, that team is really good, really fun. When's their next game? I want to watch it. And I think we've got that kind of a season.